It started as a simple weekend hiking trip. Just me and my friend Adam, two guys in our late 20s, a little burned out from city life, craving some silence and fresh air. We planned a 2-day hike along a lesser-known trail in the Cascade Mountains. Nothing extreme, just a loop through dense pine forests, some light climbing, and an overnight camp near a small alpine lake. We both had plenty of experience outdoors. We weren't worried. The first half of the day was perfect. The trail was clear, but not heavily trafficked. We only passed 2 other hikers, an older couple heading back toward the trailhead, who warned us about black bear activity. We thanked them, but didn't think much of it. We had bear spray, and we were cautious. By late afternoon, we reached the lake. It was beautiful, crystal clear water, surrounded by towering trees and granite outcrops. We pitched our tent about 30 feet from the shoreline, filtered water, cooked some dehydrated meals, and sat by the lake as the sun dipped below the tree line. It was the kind of peaceful moment you try to lock into your memory. That night, things changed. It started around 2 a.m. I woke up to the sound of something moving outside the tent. Not just a branch snapping, something heavier, something walking. I lay still, heart thudding, trying to make sense of the sound. Adam was breathing steadily next to me. I reached for my headlamp and flicked it on. The noise stopped. For a minute, I convinced myself it was just a deer or a raccoon. But then I heard it again. Slow, deliberate steps on the pine needles and underbrush. Definitely 2 feet, not 4. I shook Adam awake. "Dude, someone's out there." He blinked at me, then listened. The sound had stopped again. "We probably scared them off," he whispered, groggy. "Probably just another hiker." "At 2 a.m.? I hissed. "Without a flashlight?" He didn't answer. We waited in silence for another few minutes. Then, from deeper in the woods, maybe 20 or 30 feet beyond our tent, came this low, guttural sound. Like a mix between a growl and a groan. Animal, but off. Like it didn't quite belong. We stayed up the rest of the night, bear spray in hand, not daring to unzip the tent. Morning brought a false sense of comfort. Light always does. We packed up quickly, deciding to cut the loop short and take a shortcut that would get us back to the car by evening. Neither of us said it out loud, but we both felt it. Something had been out there. Watching. About an hour into the hike, we found something strange. Hanging from a tree, maybe 10 feet above the ground, was a clump of fur and bones twisted together with vines. Not tied, woven, like some kind of primitive ornament. We stared at it for a long time. "Bear?" Adam asked, voice uncertain. "Bears don't do arts and crafts," I muttered. We kept walking, faster now, both of us constantly looking over our shoulders. The trees felt thicker here, the light dimmer, even though the sun was up. The forest was silent, no birds, no insects. Just the crunch of our boots and the occasional snap of a twig. Around midday, we stopped for a quick break. That's when we saw the footprints. Human, but barefoot. Deep impressions in the soft soil, leading off the trail and into the woods. They looked fresh. "Maybe a survivalist," Adam offered, but he didn't sound convinced. We didn't follow the prints. We didn't need to. Another mile down the trail, we heard something moving parallel to us, just out of sight. Whatever it was, it matched our pace. Every time we stopped, it stopped. When we moved, it moved. We started talking loudly, hoping to scare it off. Joking, shouting, banging our trekking poles. But the presence stayed with us. Eventually, we reached a narrow ravine we had to cross. There was a fallen log acting as a bridge. I went first, carefully making my way across. When I turned back to help Adam, I saw him staring into the woods behind us, pale as a sheet. "There's someone standing there," he said quietly. I looked. At first I saw nothing, just trees. Then, movement. A figure, tall, thin, unmoving, just watching. I couldn't see a face. It might have been wearing something, maybe fur or bark. I don't know. But it was absolutely still, too still. We didn't speak. Adam crossed the log fast, almost slipping. We didn't stop again. For the next hour, the forest seemed to bend in on itself. The trail grew faint. We checked our map and compass obsessively. It didn't make sense. We should have been close to the trailhead by now, but the terrain looked unfamiliar. That's when we saw the second one. Another figure, this time ahead of us, maybe 100 feet down the trail, standing in the middle of the path, not moving. We froze. Then, as we watched, it stepped silently off the trail and disappeared into the trees. We turned off the trail and bushwhacked. No more maps, no more trails, just instinct and desperation. We scrambled down slopes, crossed freezing streams, climbed over deadfall. I lost a boot in the mud. Adam scraped his leg on a sharp rock. We didn't care. Finally, after what felt like hours, we stumbled into a Forest Service road. A ranger truck passed us 10 minutes later. We told them we'd gotten lost, left out the rest. Back at home, I checked online forums for that area. Found a few posts, old ones, about people seeing strange totems in the woods. Stories of hikers going off trail and never returning. Locals whispered about forest folk, or the Watchers. No details, just warnings. I haven't been back since. Neither has Adam. Some nights, I still hear those footsteps in my dreams. Slow, steady, following me through the trees. I don't usually hike alone. Not because I'm scared of the woods, but because there's something calming about sharing the silence with someone else. This trip, though, I needed solitude. A recent breakup, job stress, and the city's endless noise had worn me thin. I picked Ridgewater Trail in Washington, a 14-mile loop through remote forest, not too popular but well-maintained. I planned to hike in 6 miles, camp near the river, and hike out the next morning. It was late September. The weather was cool but not cold. The leaves were just starting to turn, and I hadn't seen another soul since leaving the trailhead that morning. The forest was alive in a quiet, peaceful way, the kind of quiet that feels earned. By mid-afternoon, I reached the area I'd scouted on the map, a flat patch near a bend in the river, surrounded by pine and alder. I set up my tent, filtered water, and started boiling it for dinner. That's when I heard the first boom. It wasn't thunder. It was deep, low, and impossibly loud, like a massive metal container being slammed shut miles away, but still close enough to feel it in my chest. It came from somewhere north, up in the hills. I stood there, holding my pot over the tiny camp stove, just listening. Boom, then silence again. No birds, no wind, just that sound echoing in my ears. I told myself it was logging equipment, or blasting from a construction site. Maybe some kind of military testing area, though I hadn't seen any warning signs on the trail. The sound didn't come again, so I let it go. I ate, wrote in my journal for a bit, and crawled into my tent before it got fully dark. At some point in the night, I woke up needing to pee. I unzipped the tent, stepped outside, and nearly tripped over something. It was a dead crow. Not just dead, arranged. Its wings were stretched out, feathers smoothed perfectly. Its eyes were missing, and something small and white had been placed in its beak. I knelt to look closer. A tooth. Human or animal, I couldn't tell. My skin went cold. I scanned the area with my flashlight, heart pounding. Nothing. Just trees and shadows. I picked up the crow with a stick and threw it as far as I could into the brush. Then I heard it again. Boom. This time it was closer. South, now, almost as if it had moved. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat upright in my tent, knife in hand, flashlight ready. Every few minutes I thought I heard something moving through the woods, but it never came close. Morning was a relief. I packed fast, skipping breakfast, and got back on the trail. The forest felt different in the daylight, less threatening, but I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. I hadn't walked more than a mile when I came across something that stopped me cold. There was a clearing just off the trail, and in the center of it stood a structure. Not a building, more like a frame. It was made of sticks, lashed together with strips of bark and what looked like deer sinew. It was about 7 feet tall, shaped like a doorway. No markings, just there. I stepped closer. Inside the frame, hanging from a string of knotted grass, was a clump of fur, coyote or maybe rabbit, and something else, a piece of cloth. I pulled it down and turned it over. It was part of a t-shirt, a graphic of a national park logo faded with time and sun. I recognized it. Glacier National Park. I had the same shirt years ago, but this one looked old, torn, weathered, like it had been out here for years. A chill ran down my spine. That's when the boom came again, so loud it hurt my ears. This time it was right there. I felt it through my feet like the ground itself was being hit with a hammer. I ran. No thoughts of keeping calm, of watching for roots or rocks. I just ran, pack slamming against my back. Every branch that snapped behind me made my skin crawl. The trail curved sharply left, and I nearly missed it. I skidded down a slope, landed hard, and rolled. My leg twisted awkwardly, but I pushed through the pain and kept going. Eventually, after what felt like hours, I stopped, gasping. Listening. No boom, no footsteps, just silence again. I checked my map and realized I'd cut the loop in half. If I followed this side of the trail, I could reach the service road in under an hour. I forced myself to move. That's when I noticed the smell. Rot, faint at first, then thick and heavy. I followed the trail around a bend and nearly gagged. A deer, or what used to be one. Ripped open, organs gone, ribs cracked wide like a peeled fruit. No scavenger does that. Not so cleanly. The body looked placed, like someone wanted it to be seen. I took a wide path around it and picked up my pace. 20 minutes later, I reached the road. My car was still there. I didn't look back as I drove. For days, I couldn't stop thinking about the sound. The boom. I searched forums, ranger reports, even local legends. I found nothing official. But in a subthread of a survivalist message board, I found a comment from a guy who claimed to have heard it too. 2 years ago, near the same area. He described it the same way, like something massive slamming shut. He also mentioned finding strange things in the woods, arranged bones, stacked rocks, and once, a perfectly round hole in the ground, 6 feet wide, that hummed when you stood near it. Another user replied saying they'd heard the sound during a camping trip, then found their trail camera's SD card wiped clean afterward. No one had answers. One message buried at the bottom stuck with me. It's not a machine, it's not thunder, it's something alive, something under the ground, and sometimes it comes up to look around. I haven't been back since. Sometimes when I'm lying awake at night, I swear I hear it again, faint, like a distant memory. Boom. I've done a fair bit of solo hiking in winter. I know the risks: hypothermia, frostbite, snow blindness, getting turned around in whiteout conditions. But I prepare. Layers, gear, GPS, emergency beacon. I don't take shortcuts. The thing is, nature is predictable, even at its worst. What you prepare for is usually what you face. But nothing prepared me for what I found off the old Timberline Trail last January. It was supposed to be a quiet overnight snowshoe trip. One night in a lean-to shelter I'd found years back, deep in a forested valley off the main trail. It's not marked on maps anymore, but I'd been there once before with a buddy and remembered how peaceful it was. Remote, tucked between two ridges, with thick pine cover that breaks the wind. A hidden little pocket of calm. I parked my Jeep at the locked gate about 3 miles from the trailhead and hiked in, snow crunching under my boots, the trees heavy with powder. It had snowed the day before, so everything was fresh and quiet, untouched. I didn't see another person the entire day. About 2 hours in, I left the main trail and followed the old logging road toward the valley. That's when I saw them. A set of footprints in the snow, leading in the same direction I was heading. They weren't mine, obviously, but they also didn't match what I expected. The prints were small, narrow. No signs of modern boots, just bare feet. Human-shaped 5 toes, but way too clean, like they hadn't sunk deep into the snow. Almost as if whatever made them was light. Too light. I stopped staring at them for a long time. They continued ahead for maybe 30 yards, then veered off into the trees and disappeared. I took a photo, then shrugged it off. Maybe someone messed around barefoot for a photo or something stupid like that before the last snowfall. Weird, but not impossible. I kept going. By mid-afternoon, I reached the shelter. It was still intact, 3 log walls and a slanted roof, enough to block the wind. Inside, some old gear was stashed in a waterproof bin. Emergency blankets, a rusty saw, half-used candles, the usual backwoods leftovers. I got a small fire going in the pit outside and melted snow for water. As night fell, the temperature dropped fast. I layered up, climbed into my 0-degree bag, and dozed off to the sound of pine branches creaking under the weight of snow. I woke up to a thump. Not a loud one, more like something landing lightly on the snow. I held still, breathing shallow. No wind, no more sounds. I sat up and checked my watch. 2:13 a.m. Then I saw the prints. They were back. Just beyond the lean-to, in the moonlit snow, was a trail of footprints. The same narrow, barefoot impressions I'd seen earlier, but now they were fresh. No snow in them. They hadn't been there when I went to bed, and they circled the shelter, all the way around it, once. Then stopped at the front, maybe 5 feet from where I now sat, staring. I scanned the tree line with my headlamp. Nothing moved, just shadows and snow. I stayed awake until dawn, axe in hand, heart racing every time a tree creaked. When the sun came up, I stepped outside and followed the prints. They led off into the woods, straight and purposeful, not wandering like an animal. I followed them for maybe 100 yards before they just stopped. No sign of where the thing that made them had gone. No leap, no drag marks, just a final footprint and then untouched snow. I turned back, packed up and left. About a mile into my hike out, I stopped for water and checked the trail behind me. There were 2 sets of prints. Mine, and another. Identical to the ones near the shelter, barefoot, human-shaped, close together. They followed my path exactly, step for step. But here's the thing. I never heard anything. No snapping branches, no crunch of snow, just silence. I started moving again, fast. No breaks, no photos, just get to the Jeep. But the prints kept appearing. Every time I checked behind me, they were there. Always about 30 feet back. Like something was following but never getting closer. Or maybe just close enough. At one point I stopped and waited, hiding behind a bend in the trail. I wanted to see who or what it was. I crouched in the snow, holding my breath, heart pounding in my ears. After maybe 10 minutes I saw it. A shape. Human-shaped. Thin. Pale. Walking slowly between the trees, just off the trail. It didn't wear clothes, but I couldn't see anything clearly, just the color of old bone in the blue morning light. It didn't look around, just kept walking. I let it pass, then bolted the other way, crashing through the trail like a madman. I didn't stop until I reached the Jeep. I threw my gear in, slammed the door, and sat there with the engine off for 5 minutes, hands shaking. When I finally started the car, I looked at the trailhead one last time. There were no prints behind me, just snow, smooth, untouched, like it had never been there. A week later, I posted about the experience in a winter hiking forum. Not in detail, just asked if anyone had ever seen strange barefoot prints in snow. Most replies were jokes. A few said they'd seen weird things in the woods, but nothing that matched what I described, except one. A guy from Alaska said he'd seen the same kind of prints near an old mining camp, deep in the tundra. He'd followed them once, said they led him in a perfect circle no matter which direction he turned. Said he heard whispering in the trees, even though the nearest person was 40 miles away. His post ended with this line: "If you see a second set of tracks in your own footsteps, do not stop walking. Do not speak. Do not look back, and never sleep in the same place twice." I haven't hiked alone since.